Hello and welcome to Inside Politics. I'm Anastasiya Lavrina. Today we are discussing one of the most important events for Europe in 2025, Germany's upcoming parliamentary elections this Sunday, February 23rd. According to the latest opinion poll, the center-right Christian Democrats remain the front-runner, gaining 29% support, followed by the far-right party Alternative for Germany at 21%. Chancellor Olaf Scholz's Social Democratic Party stands in third place at 16%. Important to note that this election is not just about choosing Germany's next government. It's a vote that could reshape the European Union, influence global markets, and even impact the ongoing war in Ukraine. We have three distinguished guests with us today to analyze what's at stake. Michael Hack, Senior Political Advisor, Dr. Friedbert Flügger, former Deputy Minister and Member of the Parliament, and Dr. Philipp Adorf, Lecturer of Political Science at University of Bonn. Dear experts, warm welcome to Inside Politics.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. So, Mr. Hack, let's start with you. With the election just days away, what are your expectations? How do you think the political landscape is shaping up in Germany right now?
It's a thrilling time. It's absolutely a thrilling time. And it's the most political time since decades. We are facing a multifaceted crisis in Germany when it comes to migration, when it comes to economy, when it comes to foreign affairs. And we are having a real debate now about how to address these topics. I think it's a key moment for our democracy here in order to vote and to find here common solutions. I see a very heated debate, a very tense debate between the political parties. But you see already the tendencies that the big two, let's call them like that, the CDU and the SPD, so the Conservatives and the Social Democrats, that they already try to cooperate. You saw that recently in the last TV debate between the two major candidates, that they are not really that much attacking each other again. They are more now going into a consensus. And that's what the country needs, because we have problems which have to be faced and targeted by both parties with a strong base.
Dr. Flügger, what are your thoughts from your perspective? How do you see the current political climate in Germany? What are the major factors that are shaping the voters' mindset?
Well, I believe that the country suffers. It suffers from deindustrialization. We had no growth within the last years. We have a crumbling infrastructure, public infrastructure. We have overloading bureaucracy. We have enormous problems with migration. And if you look to those areas where we traditionally are very strong, that's chemistry, that's machinery, that's automotive, we are facing an enormous challenge from China, which comes with new products to our markets, which are not bad, but much cheaper. And on the other hand, many companies in Germany, because of high energy costs and this bureaucratic problem, too much bureaucracy, tend to go to China. So BASF, one of the super companies in Germany in the chemistry sector, is not growing in Germany, is not making money in Germany, but they are flourishing in China. So, Germany still is a very strong country. Don't misunderstand me. We still have a very strong industry which is resilient in many ways. We have family businesses which are fantastic, but we have to work very hard to keep that. And the developments of the last years, and that is not only the Social Democratic government, that started before. were not very good for us. So I do hope, that's my personal opinion, that we will have a change in government and that this question of deindustrialization is tackled, of energy prices is tackled, migration is tackled, infrastructure. That is, we have to become healthy again, and that will last a few years until we are back on track.
Well, indeed, very interesting, Dr. Adorf. It's clear that this election is not just about the candidates themselves, but about Germany's role in Europe and the wider world. Now, let's talk about the parties. We have been tracking polling trends as the election approaches. What are you seeing the latest polls, and which party do you think will come out on top?
Well, I think the polls have been pretty consistent over the past year, so the Christian Democrats will come out on top. But it's worth remembering that even when they do come out on top with perhaps 28 or 29% of the vote, this might be their second worst result or the second worst result in the history of this party. So it's far from a resounding, or it will be far from a resounding victory for the Christian Democrats. And the second strongest party will probably be the AfD. And this is quite a remarkable result. It's a Eurosceptic party. It's a far-right party that has only been around for a little over a decade. And they will come in second. And they might also be well positioned to do even better in the subsequent election because according to the polls, depending on which parties actually, or depending on the number of parties that make it into parliament, Friedrich Merz may very well be forced to form a coalition with not just one center-left party, but two center-left parties, the Social Democrats and the Greens. And this will make it very difficult for him to enact the kind of policies that we already kind of touched upon a moment ago, focusing on the economy and perhaps also offering a slightly more restrictive position on immigration, because his coalition partners will probably be quite opposed to that. So even though Friedrich Merz will come in first with his party and he has a very good chance of becoming the next chancellor, the outlook for the Christian Democrats, I think, is far from positive.
Mr. Hack, that's quite interesting and complicated situation. The upcoming election is vital, as I already said, not only for Germany, but for the entire European Union. Could you please share with us your thoughts on why this election is such a pivotal moment for Europe, for the European Union?
You see in Europe all over the trend to more nationalistic policies and right-wing parties governing these countries. And this is also to a certain extent reflected in this election. You have a very strong AfD, so this right populist party, which will be for sure the second in the race. So I think there's no debate, or all the polls must be completely wrong if they wouldn't finish up with that, which has also historic implication. And I think this will last and change the political landscape, at least in Germany, for a longer time. If you just look at the whole organization of the Bundestag, of our parliament, we had a big social democratic fighter against the Nazis, Otto Wels, and the AfD will take over the reunion room here for this party, which is named Otto Wels Saal, which is the horror scenario for social democrats. In Europe, Germany is the key country for Europe. If Germany suffers, the rest suffers too. And to what Dr. Pflüger says, I agree to that to a very large extent. But we are in Germany considering the whole shocks our economy went through from sometimes wrong political framework when it comes to vehicles or etc., or the chemical industry. We had several external shocks like the war with Russia and the high energy prices. And for that, considering all of these challenges, the German economy is still relatively strong. So we need to face on that. We have to renew this German-French connection here. So that is very vital that the next government will reach out to that. And I think no matter which party or which coalition we are facing, we will see here a stronger link that the next government wants to link more into the German partners, and particularly here with France, but also with Poland.
Dr. Flüger, I would like to hear your opinion on the same issue. Previously, you stated that one of the key problems is the growing influence of China, and we do remember the statements made by American leader Donald Trump, who is also referring to China and its growing power and growing influence in Europe and far beyond. Therefore, what are your expectations from the foreign policy of Germany after these elections?
Well, of course, we all are shocked about what we hear from Washington. The way of America first was known to us. We knew that there would be a change of policy. But the consequence in which Donald Trump is executing his policy and is making clear to everyone that he is doing what he believes is right, and no matter what the allies and friends that have been there for decades think about it, it really is striking. So I think one of the main tasks for any new government in Germany will be to try its utmost to align Europe, the EU countries, to become, a united, strong partner. And one of the ideas which I always had was when the US is not giving anymore the nuclear umbrella to us, as they used to be since World War II, if the US doesn't take NATO serious anymore, is threatening Denmark of getting Greenland out of Denmark, or threatening Canada to become the 51st state of the United States. Well, if that happens, then I believe we have to think of a European nuclear doctrine. That is something we definitely need, together with France and with Britain, to really say, well, there is the necessity to have a deterrent force. The French call it dissuasion concertée. That Monsieur Macron has made that offer to Germany. It has never been answered yet, because we always relied on the US, and we can't rely on the US anymore. So we have to think about other security initiatives. One could be this, but whether one agrees to that or not, what is needed if we do not want to become irrelevant to the world is that we stronger work together, unite. And this is an enormous task for the new chancellor. I've known him since 30 years. I know he's experienced in international affairs. I believe he has the competence to do that. And he might get a chance on Sunday, and we will see how things work out then.
Dr. Adorf, do you also feel optimistic about the future unite approach to what's happening in Europe and European Union foreign policy, whether it's towards Ukraine or towards the relations with the United States? What are your predictions for that?
Well, of course, I mean, the last week has been quite dramatic in terms of the comments coming out of Washington, D.C. We all sort of expected Donald Trump to perhaps pull out of Europe just a bit, but the speed and the extent to which he has done so has been quite astonishing. To a certain extent, that may be a positive thing because it will force the parties to perhaps sort of expedite and accelerate their own coalition negotiations so that it will not take a couple of months, but that things will get underway quite quickly and a coalition agreement could be formed quite quickly, because I think the 2 or 3 parties which will form a coalition agree for the most part on the need to have a stronger European cooperation. And even though the Christian Democrats have historically also been a strong transatlantic voice, I think it's become quite clear that it is very difficult to uphold that transatlantic voice and that outlook when nobody else on the other side of the Atlantic is really paying attention to what you're saying. So even though this development in Washington creates quite a challenge for Europe, it may also present an opportunity, because dissenting voices that have said, well, do we really need European cooperation on a variety of issues? They will probably become somewhat quieter, because all of the detailed questions about the extent of European cooperation on a variety of issues have become somewhat irrelevant when your big partner, your, in a sense, guardian, the United States, decides to no longer protect you and perhaps focus far more on the Asia-Pacific region. So in that sense, I think the past couple of weeks have jolted Europe into action, and there is really no possibility anymore to turn around. I mean, this hope that the United States may perhaps change its tune, its stance, that is, in my view, at least not going to happen, at least not during the Trump era. So Europe will have to find more ways to cooperate, and the German government will most certainly try to be a leading actor in that cooperation under Friedrich Merz, presumably.
Mr. Hack, we never before. So never
Yes,
before Germany has a hard.
What the colleague just said is.
Please.
What the colleague just said is that we have to focus on this German-US relations. And I think the new government can give here a real benefit again. The current government was very undiplomatic towards the United States. The statements from the foreign minister were not very helpful in building up now cooperation between Germany and, with that, the heart of Europe, together with the US. So the next government has really the best now starting point in rebuilding already damaged relationship. And for that, I think it's very, it would be crucial that we should not have a 3-party coalition in that. If the Greens again would join this government, there would be only a slightest variation of the current one. So what we need here more is more progressive government, which focus again, really like Trump did in a certain way, on economic policy and addressing the fears of the population when it comes to migration. And this healthy shock, if we formulate it positively from Trump, resonated already in Germany. That led to the initiative here from Merz on the migration policy, where he tried to force the current remaining government into action on migration. So there are already some implications which I think are seen in the US. And the speech by J.D. Vance here at the Munich Security Conference also very much resonated in the political Berlin, and led to several discussions, which points here were correct what he addressed and which were not.
And it's very interesting, especially because never before Germany has a hard-right party been so successful. Dr. Flüger, please, you want to add something to the previous question, right?
Yes, I think that was right to the point what Mr. Hack said. If we want to have a better relationship with the US and with the new Trump administration, which we of course want, then we have to be strong. That is what I said before. Europe must be united. A second point is we have to stop the economic degrowth. We have to become economically competitive again. Well, the last real reforms of the economic sector in Germany were under Chancellor Schröder, Mr. Hack's former boss. And that was, well, at the beginning of the 2000s. So we need a strong economy. That is what this election is all about. And if the economy gets strong again, we don't have to worry so much about the very right-wing party that we have. That is, in my point of view, not a Nazi party. We should not push them into that direction. Majority of these people are just disillusioned voters who believe that our present politicians are not up to the task that they were given by the voters. So if we are more successful, this right-wing nightmare will vanish pretty fast. I absolutely agree. We need a stable government, two parties, most probably CDU and SPD, and then we have to fix the problems of our country and bring it back in the wind.
Then there is another very important question deriving from our conversation today, the situation over Ukraine and Russia. Germany has one of the decisive voice within the European Union, but during the last Munich conference and then later Paris summit, it was France and the United Kingdom who were thinking about more independent policy from the United States toward the future of Ukraine in order to support its sovereignty and territorial integrity. Then after these elections in Germany, do you expect your country to be mostly involved in the future debates over Ukraine? That it means Germany to support more European Union position within its France statements, or be closer with Donald Trump, who is more willing to have the meeting with Russia?
Well, I believe and I fear that the Europeans do not have much to say. Mr. Trump talked to Putin. They said in Riyadh when they met, they didn't meet in Geneva, not in Berlin, not in Paris, they met in Riyadh. They demonstrate that they want to do it without the Europeans. And at a later stage, we come to the table. And that is, to a certain amount, also due to policy mistakes of the Europeans. It was right to support Ukraine. It is right to support Ukraine. But we never thought in these last 3 years about how we could end this war. And if we now complain and say, how do you do this above our heads? Yes, to a certain extent, this is our fault because we never came up with something else but sending more weapons to Ukraine. That is true, and that was right to do that. But the other part of security policy, next to the fist, is the hand which tries to find slow confidence building, discusses possible ways to a peaceful situation. And there, I believe Mr. J.D. Vance in his speech was pretty right. There was not much coming from the Europeans, not much fantasy of how to end and come out of that terrible war which has cost much too many lives.
Mr. Hack, what role will Germany play in shaping EU defense policy after these elections?
We have a very strong defense sector. So our weapons, you saw the whole debate around the Taurus missiles, they are in demand in the whole of Europe and were requested there by the Ukraine as well. So we have a certain role to play. And again, talking from the positive, I think the Trump administration forces us in becoming active and becoming self-sufficient within Europe. And I think it's a wake-up call that these peace talks, if we want to call them that way, that they started between the US and Russia, and we were not involved. And I think that must be a wake-up call for a deeper European cooperation. I think Germany has to play there a key role and has to fulfill its commitments it has in Europe.
And just to conclude, Dr. Adorf, your vision of the future Europe in regards to Ukraine and Russia after these elections?
Yeah, I think it's going to be very difficult to perhaps rebuild the relationship with the United States that quickly, because we have an environment, in my view at least, where Donald Trump is quite isolationist. So even if you have a somewhat different government in place that does not annoy the American government to the same extent as perhaps the previous German Foreign Office did, I think it'll be very difficult to rebuild that. So I think Germany will be a voice for more support of Ukraine. Obviously, the Social Democrats have sometimes played the role of breaking or sort of slowing down support for Ukraine. And I think with Friedrich Merz, it will look somewhat different. And perhaps as a junior coalition partner, the Social Democrats will be less likely to act as that, as an actor that will try to slow down support for Ukraine. So I would assume that the next German government, regardless of whether it's a 2- or 3-party coalition, will be more proactive in its support for Ukraine, and therefore also make the case for Europe perhaps picking up the slack that the United States will leave behind if it withdraws its support to a significant extent from this theater of war.
Well, gentlemen, thank you. Thank you so much for joining Inside Politics today.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Thank you very much. Just to remind, today with us we had Michael Hack, Senior Political Advisor, Dr. Friedberg Pflüger, former Deputy Minister and Member of Parliament, and Dr. Philipp Adorf, Lecturer of Political Science at University of Bonn, Germany. Dear viewers, do stay with A News and see you soon.